not penalized if it produced. 3. The movement away from a fixed exchange rate and towards a market-determined exchange rate that was started in July 1991. It was quickly followed by the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act being replaced by the Foreign Exchange Management Act. And we have reached a point where Indian travelers can go abroad without begging or stealing dollar notes or pound notes. You can walk with your head held high, carrying a credit card that is payable in any currency. When I went to university abroad, a fine gentleman in Mumbai, sitting in the Reserve Bank of India, called Mr. Atmarama Rao, allowed me a grand allowance of $7 a day for my boarding, lodging and personal expenses. And for 10 months a year. And when I asked him, what do I do for the 2 months when the university declares the annual holiday? He said, I can only pay for your study. Since you are not studying in those 2 months, the day when you can walk in and collect as much foreign exchange as you want, we have traveled a long distance. 4. The virtual creation of the Indian capital market. The stock market came to life shortly after 1991. 5. The repeal of key chapters of the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act. This was followed by the enactment of the Competition Act in 2002. We encouraged large scale and large size, but put in a piece of legislation that will prevent anti-competitive practices. 6. The reduction of tax rates. You should ask your father or your grandfather how much you paid income tax. At one point of time, the marginal rate of income tax was 97.5%. For every rupee that you earned, you had to pay to the government 97.5 paise. Add to that wealth tax, and there was wealth tax in those days. The effective rate of tax was over 100 paise in the rupee, which is what led to the building of a black economy or a shadow economy. We still are paying a price for that mindless regime of taxation. We reduced the tax rates step by step, but the bold step was taken in 1997 when direct taxes rates were reduced sharply to 3 slabs of 10%, 20% and 30%. Fortunately, those slabs have survived 6 governments and 5 finance ministers. 7. The 1997 agreement between the government and the Reserve Bank of India to end ad hoc treasury bills. Now, ad hoc treasury bills is a euphemism for printing currency. If you want money, you'll ask your father or your mother. Or you'll go to a bank and borrow. If you're a wicked person, you will steal. Government has a luxury of neither asking anyone for money, or borrowing money, or stealing money. Government alone has a luxury, if it wants money, to print currency. So if you want 100 crores, a telephone call to the Reserve Bank of India and the RBI will print 100 crores and give it to government. We put an end to that in 1997 and obliged the government to borrow in the market like anyone else. Governments began to take seriously the issue of fiscal deficit. Prior to 1997, no one was concerned about the fiscal deficit. It's only after we abolished the ad hoc treasury bills the people started paying attention to the fiscal deficit, the big elephant in the room, which had rendered our economy completely unsustainable. 8. Disinvestment in public sector enterprises. Public sector enterprises have performed a remarkable role of mobilizing capital and building major industries, which the private sector, given the time and the context, could not have done. We could not have had the steel mills and the other large power plants, the hydroelectric projects, without a public sector. But that public sector had outlived its utility, and therefore we began disinvesting in public sector, making them accountable to the shareholders and making them accountable to the market. 9. The adoption of the public-private partnership model to garner private resources for public projects. Without garnering private resources, we could not have built the Golden Quadrilateral. We could not have built the Mumbai-Pune Expressway. We could not have undertaken many of the infrastructure projects. This model has its problems, but with a little tweaking, I think this is the model that can serve India rapidly expand its infrastructure. 10. The abolition of state monopoly in telecommunications and the ushering in of the telecom revolution. 11. The Aadhaar-enabled direct benefit transfer that began slowly, gathered pace, stalled, and has now been relaunched since 2014. This will drastically change the regime of subsidy and help us deliver only the absolutely necessary subsidies to the absolutely deserving beneficiaries. These, according to me, are the 11 major reforms since 1991 that have transformed India. Of course, we did many other things. Some of them fall within the realm of economics. Some fall within the realm of economic and social reform. Some are reform of institutions. I do not want to make a long list, but I must mention Maganrega, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which for the first time put a safety net for the very, very poor of India. And in my view, while Maganrega may not have abolished poverty, Maganrega has certainly abolished hunger in this country. No one needs to go hungry anymore if he is in rural India, because there is work on demand and there is a wage on demand. Similarly, the 27% reservation for the other backward classes in central educational institutions and central government services opened up completely to a hitherto excluded class of people access to higher education and access to participating in governmental institutions and services. There's a long list of such reforms that were done in 25 years. As I said, some of them may qualify as economic reforms, some may not. But altogether, it is these reforms which have brought us to a place where we can claim today that we are among the fastest growing large economies. Our own myopic interpretation of the Constitution that divided and segmented India into many markets. The goods and services tax will be the tax that will make India one market, and that, I believe, is the biggest challenge, among the biggest challenges that we face today. Second, the direct taxes code. The mark of civilization is to pay taxes, said a philosopher. Direct taxes are the most legitimate taxes that can be levied by any government, because it is a progressive tax. If you earn more, you pay more. If you earn less, you pay less. It is a fair tax, it is a progressive tax, as long as the rates are kept at reasonable levels. The direct taxes code must be passed, and we must put an end to the Income Tax Act of 1961 vintage and other laws which have now become a playground for lawyers and chartered accountants. 3. The recommendations of the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, headed by that distinguished judge, that must be passed. The recommendations are both legislative and non-legislative. Legislative recommendations must be implemented through laws. The non-legislative recommendations must be implemented through executive action. For some reason, everybody seems to have forgotten the far-reaching recommendations of the FSLRC. 4. A commitment, a promise that education and healthcare will be universal and publicly funded. My biggest concern in recent years has been how higher and quality education excludes the poor. When I was in school, and I went to what was then considered the best school in the city, run by Scottish missionaries, I paid only 30 rupees a term as fees. And when I joined Presidency College, the premier college, the first college in Chennai, I paid 150 rupees for a whole year. Today, higher education, especially quality higher education and quality institutions, and among them those run by the private sector, completely exclude the poor. High fees, high costs of stay, lodging and boarding, high prices for various activities, and above all, capitation fees are excluding the poor. Unless education in this country becomes totally and truly universal and publicly funded, I wish that we were all children of Europe. In Europe, most European countries, especially the Eastern European countries, every child has a right to walk into any college or university and ask for a seat, and the education is totally free. That is the only way you can reforms us, that better education, quality education, better healthcare, quality healthcare excludes the poor of this country. 5. We must promise to the people of India and deliver to them 3 things: drinking water, sanitation, and clean air. How can we call ourselves a civilized society if people don't have access to drinking water? Or, for someone like me who lives in Delhi these days, clean air. Or, to about 75% of the people of this country, sanitation. If you deny drinking water, clean air and sanitation, how can you call yourself a developed country or even a civilized country? 6. Assure irrigation leading to productivity increases. There's a huge challenge that faces India's agriculture, and the Vice Chancellor perhaps knows more than I can even try to articulate. Productivity in Indian agriculture has stagnated over the last 20 years. Since the Green Revolution and the few years following, there's been no breakthrough at all in new seeds. We have turned our face against genetically modified seeds, except in the case of cotton. There's a huge productivity challenge. The productivity of our farm produce is far less than China's and less than most other countries in the world. Paddy, wheat, sugarcane, cotton, name the produce. Our productivity is about 50 to 60% of China's. The productivity challenge is the biggest challenge that the Indian people will face. Today we may be self-sufficient in food grains, but that won't last unless we meet the productivity challenge. And the first step to meet the productivity challenge is to ensure that agriculture in India is not monsoon dependent. Agriculture in India is not affected by drought every other year. That agriculture has assured irrigation. And lastly, the most important challenge that will face us is the challenge of jobs. You are young people. You come to this great university, and when you walk out of its portals with a degree in your hand, you expect that this society will give you a useful job. What if millions of people with degrees in their hands roam the streets of India without jobs? What will happen? What we claim to be a demographic dividend will become a demographic nightmare. India's unemployment rate, according to last published figures, is 5%. And that is a gross underestimate, because it doesn't count underemployment. It doesn't count gender disparity. It doesn't count many people who voluntarily withdraw from the labor force. It doesn't count the fact that most employment is casual and completely transient. Our unemployment rate is much higher than 5%. And more young people leaving schools, leaving colleges, many not even completing school education, are out there in the country without jobs. I fear for the future of this country. The most important challenge that we face is the challenge of creating jobs. And jobs can be created only by small, medium, and micro enterprises and services. That's where jobs are created. Big industry doesn't create jobs. Big industry creates wealth. Small enterprises create jobs. We have to focus on creating jobs. There are many more challenges, but these, in my view, are the 7 major challenges that face the India, in which I hope many of you will have a leading role to play in guiding the future and the destiny of this country. Being a student of economics, you should feel proud that you are in the middle of a major revolution in India. Among all the sciences, the one that is invisible but touches everyone's life is economics. Thanks to the fact that we had a firm guiding hand in Dr. Manmohan Singh in 1991, we could unleash this revolution. I sincerely hope that among you will rise Professor Lattawala, among you will rise Dr. Manmohan Singh, and among you will rise many others who are required in this country to guide the future of this country. Thank you. I don't think demonetization is a reform. I think demonetization is a monumental tragedy. Demonetization is anti-poor. Demonetization has put millions of people into misery and hardship. What have they done? They have created this myth that all cash is black money and all black money is in cash. Now, all cash is not black money. Black money is income which is evaded tax. But there are large sections of the people who have cash who don't evade income tax. Agricultural income is not subject to income tax. Income of charities is exempt from income tax. Income of religious trusts is exempt from income tax. People in the northeastern states of India do not have to pay income tax. And if they have cash in their hands, is that black money? Is the money in the hands of a farmer black money? And I think whoever planted the idea of demonetization did not know elementary economics. He should be asked to enroll in an undergraduate school in economics. Black money is not a stock, black money is a flow. I'll give you a very simple example. Actually, that example must be multiplied 10 times because that is the velocity of circulation of money. There's a farmer, there's a doctor or a lawyer, there's a restaurator. The farmer has 5,000 rupees in his hand. That is not black money, that's white. Perfectly legitimate money. He goes to a doctor or a lawyer, avails of their services. The doctor or the lawyer charges him 1,000 rupees, but does not give him the receipt. 1,000 rupees has become black money. The doctor or the lawyer goes to a restaurant with his family, buys a meal. The restaurator is an honest man, gives him a bill for 1,000 rupees and accounts for it in his account books. The 1,000 rupees has again become white money. People who did not understand elementary economics have authored demonetization. And what is the result today? It is now freely said that the 15,44,000 crore rupees of demonetized notes will all be deposited in the banks by the December 30. So what have we achieved? Besides, just as all cash is not black money, all black money is not cash. Only 6% of black money is in cash. And the government admits yesterday that they did not have, before November 8 or after November 8, any estimate of the black money. It's like a surgeon operating upon a patient without knowing whether the patient has any disease at all, which part of the patient is affected, and what kind of surgery is required. Which is why you have millions of people standing in queues today, just to a back of the envelope calculation. If outside every bank branch and outside every ATM, 500 people are standing every day, that is 11 crore people standing every day in queues. I think demonetization is the worst thing that could have happened to an economy that was ambling along at a sedate growth rate of 7% or so. The fastest growing among the large economies as claimed by the government, which I agree with. Demonetization has crippled farmers, self-employed people, small business persons, daily wage earners, daily income earners. I was in Nagpur. Before November 8, oranges were selling at 35,000 rupees a ton. After demonetization, oranges are selling at 20,000 rupees a ton. Who will pay the farmer 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees for every ton that is lost? So I think demonetization is an unmitigated tragedy, a man-made tragedy. And I have written extensively about it, I've spoken extensively about it. It certainly has nothing to do with economic reform.
Very quickly on bank nationalization and financial.
See, bank nationalization was the only way in which you would have taken